August 1st already. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Hello everybody. I'm going to start at the truck bed. Well, this avocado tree that came up in here because I compost in place in here got hit really hard. Thought for a while I might lose it, but nope. Even though it got crispy, they do not like the heat. Look at all the new growth. I don't know what I'm going to do with the tree. It really doesn't belong in here. But anyways, it came back and I've got walking onions in here and garlic chives growing. I've got my red Swiss Chard and it's gone to seed, which is really good because I'm going to collect the seed. I'm going to get that spread all over. And in the meantime, the old plant that is well over a year old is making a comeback. So I'm not going to pull it out. I'm going to leave it. There's more on the other side. Let's see if we can see through this little jungle. Look at that. This is an old truck bed. It came with the house. We were going to sell it. You know, this was years ago. And we left it and we've used this for a planter raised bed. It's been great. There's a pomegranate tree that I stuck here. I grew from seed and that's just sitting there. Then of course I've got some red Swiss chard that came up on the ground and the rabbits have been eating everything. That's because they have no food. So I wanted to save a couple that were on the ground, so I threw a cage on top. So I just lift it, use what I want, and put the cage back. See, I'll show you over here. See, this is normally covered in green with weeds and, you know, different native grasses growing. And really all that's left is all brown grass and the trees. Well, of course, your rabbits aren't going to go up to eat anything on a tree. So, and the same thing with the birds, you know, they come down and eat the seeds and the greens off the native greens growing, you know, your native grasses. So nope, there's no food for them. So now let's walk over past Gary's pile of wood chips that he's been slowly going through and sifting, and we're using that for different things. And we'll go over and look at the wall. Well, now I'm at the wall and I really haven't done too much here because I tend to plant as the weather starts to cool. And this kind of becomes my winter garden, I guess you would say, because the wall stays nice and warm. That's a microclimate. So all winter, no matter how cold it gets, that wall really holds the heat. And you lean on that at night when it's cold and it's nice and warm. I've got an eggplant that came up here. Oh, I got to get that one off. It shouldn't be going yellow. And I've got more eggplant growing down here, as you can see. Look at all that. I'm working on a compost bin here, and I've got to throw a little bit more in there, and I'm going to get some squash growing in there. This is just an old weed that's here, sow thistle. I left it in case there was anything left for the birds next to it. And then I've got some red Swiss chard that came up. Another bin I'm getting ready. I've been throwing all kinds of compost in here. I just put a layer of wood chips on top, and I am getting ready to plant in there. That will be my next project within the next week or two. Here's a cucumber plant that I've got growing in here. And what I do a lot of times is I take my compost bins that I compost in place, as you all know. And if you don't, go check out the video. And a lot of times I don't even plant in there directly. I put another pot on top. Oh dear, that wasn't there yesterday. See all this? Oh no. Baby papaya is coming up. You know, sometimes I think they're buried and they seem to work their way to the surface. These are all papaya seeds that are sprouting. Well, we've been eating a lot of papaya, so Gary throws it in my, you know, kitchen scrap bucket, and then it gets thrown out here. And, well, if I leave it, it will just become compost, or I can separate them and move them. I don't know. I'll see. But this is a cucumber I planted. And here is the tag that I got to tape with masking tape on this something. I only bought one tray of cucumbers. They're pickling ones. And I am getting so many cucumbers from the other 5 plants I planted around the yard. I can't believe it. So I'm really happy with those. And of course celery that came up, volunteers, more red Swiss chard, but see the one with the basket's kind of okay, a little cramped in there, but the rabbits have been eating anything they can get a hold of because there isn't any food. So are the birds. Another Moringa tree. That one got really damaged during the winter, but boy, it made a nice comeback. Even though it had the wall, it was a small tree though, because it is like tripled in size. So we'll see what happens this winter. Tomato plant. Oh, this is another red Swiss chard on the ground. It's also gone to seed. I've been collecting seed and just throwing it around, kind of throw it and forget it. And tomato plant, it kind of got a little damage from all the heat, but it's still going strong, and we still get a lot of tomatoes off of it. And there's a squash coming up in there. More red Swiss chard. Here's the other compost bins I set up. I got to trim off the yellow leaves and use that for compost. There's 2 bins in there. I've got the very, very big one. You cannot see it. There it is. On the bottom, so I've got 1 plant here. And then the other one, which is full of zucchini up here. I've got 1 zucchini growing on the top. So 2 zucchini plants. They're giant, growing in there, and that's going really good. And there's the bathtub. Now let's go to the papaya trees. Okay, now we're on the other side of the yard. It's not too far. See, that's where we just came from. And now I'm over here. Look at this. This has nothing to do with food really, but do you see the cactus down there? The rabbits have been eating and gnawing on the cactus. Even though there is water around, I think it's just kind of an instinct to gnaw on vegetation that has a lot of water, because we've been really hot. So they gnaw on the cactus. It's just a cactus I had picked up in the street once and stuck in the ground, and now I got a cactus. But anyways, more compost bins. I've been throwing more compost. See, I even have a bucket in there where I'm still throwing things in. And I've got different squash coming up in here, and I might plant one in there. Or the other thing I do is sometimes I just continue to throw kitchen scraps in here, let it break down, and when I water it, it continues to feed the entire bin. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. I've also been making papaya tea and been feeding the papaya tree because they got damaged really hard with the heat. But you know what? They've made a beautiful comeback with that tea I was making out of their own leaves that they were dropping. Look at this. Look how beautiful this thing. This one's even doubled in size. So they were just fried. They had lost so many leaves from the heat. But boy, that compost tea made with their own leaves worked really, really good. Oh, just some orange trees that came up in the compost there. And then another, oh look, another pomegranate tree. And yes, this one I planted too by seed. I've got to show you guys how to plant them. They're so easy to grow from seed, and you don't need to graft them. They just go ahead and produce fruit as soon as they get to the right size, which would be what, a year or 2. Anyways, that's my pomegranate tree back there. There's 2 of them. There's one over there too. I had a ton of seedlings. I didn't know what to do with them. That's a story for another time. And this papaya tree is making a big comeback too after the heat. It's got beautiful new growth. It dropped all its leaves on the bottom on its own. And again, making my compost tea out of their leaves. I think that's a bean that's growing in there. Was doing really, really well. This one is going to send off a side shoot. See? So what's going to happen with this papaya tree now is it's going to send off a side shoot and start having papayas grow from another branch, I guess you would say. So but that's just starting. So it'll be a little while, but it's doing really good. We have been eating papayas every day. Okay, mint on this wild mint came up from seed. Rosemary, of course. I think the coyotes go in there at night and roll. Celery, of course, still growing here. Cucumbers. Did a whole video on this one. This is my container, composting in place. It's got a tomato plant growing in there. I've got cucumbers everywhere. Look at that. I just keep picking cucumbers, making pickles. I can't believe how many cucumbers I've got. I've got them here, and I've got them on the other side of the yard. They are doing really, really well. Okay, let's walk in here. I had hoped to clean my yard before I did this, and I didn't. I think we had a little wind. Some things blew around too. The moringa tree that had been chewed to the bottom by a rabbit has now grown back, and it has gotten really good size to it. I think I showed you this in the last video. I wasn't sure what was going to happen to it. It lost its top. Well, it's going to grow from the sides now and bush out. That is a purple kale, and it's a curly kale, so that's going to be really nice. Celery, and that's just another kale I had stuck in there and rooted. And this is the other papaya tree. These came up in my compost bin, and you would think that'd be enough, but no. More papaya trees. Look at this. You can't stop papayas. Once you know how to grow them, you can't stop them. They're nothing but weeds. But these are doing really good, so we'll see what happens. And I don't know, it should throw fruit maybe next year, because it's only a I don't think it's a year old. It's not a year old. Okay, my strawberry tower, and then another Moringa tree. Look at this. Is that beautiful? The bumblebees have been coming to it. Had a lot of bumblebees. I see honeybees in there right now. Okay, and different squash, and I believe this is a cucumber that I planted from seed. I had a package of seeds and I threw a seed in there. So I believe that's a cucumber coming up. Tomatillos, more onions. There's walking onions everywhere. I grow a lot of that. This is another red Swiss chard that came up in my compost bin. It's another one. I'm going to leave this, let the seeds, see, this is what the seeds look like. They're like, it looks like one seed, but there's a whole bunch in there when you break it open. But we'll just toss that one down. But it's going to be full of thousands of seeds. Okay, there is that tower I made a video on. Look at the birds. They sit here all day and chew up my leaves. Okay. This is put here because I've got these stakes here and I don't want to poke myself, so I put stuffed animals on top. So if I bend over and don't see the stake, I'm not going to poke my eye out. All right, in here I've got beans growing, green beans, as you can see. And this thing is like Jack and the Beanstalk. Look at this. It just keeps going and going. And I've got tomatoes growing in here. I've got purple basil growing in here. This is that little it's actually 3 tubs. I did the video on that too. And it's a big tub, a smaller tub, and then the pot on the top. I've even got a small pot in there. And the pot in the middle, I have not planted anything in there. I'm still composting off and on, which feeds all these plants. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff in there. I've got a carrot that went to seed in there. So, or it's almost going to seed. So we'll have that going too. Tomatillos in there. I don't know. There's a ton of stuff. Onions, parsley. I can't even get back here. I've got to work on this. Those are the 3 black bins. I did a video on that too. Composting in place, threw in a couple zucchini seeds, and it's full of squash. So I've got to get in here carefully, because I always have to be careful, rattlesnakes around here, and get some squash picked. And then of course more kale. I've got kale growing everywhere. I've got collard, of course, growing everywhere. And then this is the eggplant. It's full of eggplant, absolutely full. Let's see if we can get down here. And there's more there, and it's all over. See? And I've been picking them. As fast as I pick them, they just keep showing up. Even I've missed some, as you can see. I picked a bunch of yellow ones and threw them on the ground, which is good because look at this. The rabbits have been coming in and eating it. So maybe they'll eat that and leave everything else alone. Whatever they don't eat, I will compost. Let's see. Mint everywhere, and we make mint every day, mint tea. So that's worked out really good. This is spearmint. That's doing really good. Never got affected by the heat at all. And of course back there, more collard and more squash. Here's red vein sorrel, walking onions, celery, which has gone to seed. That's all celery going to seed. So that's why it grows here like weed. I planted it once. Somebody asked me, how many times do you plant celery? Once. And as soon as you have it and it goes to seed, you can't get rid of it. So you'll have all you want. Over here, I've got sweet potato growing. I didn't plant it. It came up from the compost bin that I had. I left it. So I've got sweet potatoes in there, I saw. And then I've got more walking onions. See all the baby walking onions? So I'm trying to get those planted. I planted, like I said, a bunch up here. I think I showed that last month. And look, if they're all having babies. And then I've got parsley. I've got celery. I've got green Swiss chard, more walking onions. This is how they start. And then it will travel up to the top. And then it will pop open at the top. Sage, garlic chives, and then of course I've got zucchini in here. And I had some mint on the ground. I threw it in here for now. I'm probably going to move it. There's that strawberry mint. Oh, does that taste bad? As far as tea, ugh. Okay, we won't get into that. Let's see. I've got to trim up my tomatoes a little bit. They've got brown leaves from the heat. And so we've got tomato plants here, sparse looking sprouting broccoli. See the tomatoes? This one's the black one. And then of course garlic chives. I've just kind of stick things everywhere as we go. Strawberry spinach back here. I put that in a pot. And that's sitting here in case I want to move it. And I think that might be a turnip over there, because I had some turnip seeds I threw around. Let's see. Again, this is the tomatoes. They've kind of been hit by the heat, the leaves, the older leaves, so I've been trimming those off. Don't throw it away. That's great compost. Here's another papaya tree that came up, and we're going to leave that one, because that comes up out of our compost. And I've been trying to clear a lot out back here, because I've got that whole side there that I can't get to. Everything got so big and wild, so I'm trying to clear that out. More garlic chives, and again, I've been composting in here, and I'm getting ready to plant in here. I've got celery coming up. Oh, there's a pepper there, black pepper. I've got peppers around here too. A lot of stuff is hidden, and I forget to mention it. Like over here is pepinos. Look at that. Is that gorgeous? And there's a whole bunch there. I don't know if you can see them. Look at that. They're white, and they've got purple stripes. So you can use anything when you're planting in it. I just took an old milk carton and put in some walking onions, and then I can move them later. And kale, lots of different types of kale I grow. Got a squash that came up. I've got some melons that are growing here, kind of protecting it from the rabbits, because I'd like to get some melons, and hopefully the rabbits won't get it. It's a tomato plant back there, more collard. Getting ready to plant something in this container. I've got a lot of containers that I don't have anything planted in. As far as changing my garden as we're getting into fall, which we're not there yet, because that won't come until the middle of September, I don't plan on doing anything. I go along as the weather goes, because we never know what our weather's going to be. Pretty much everything that's here will stay here. So as winter approaches, if the plants are looking good, we leave everything. If it looks like it's dying, then we take it out. And the broccoli here is going to be, 3 years old now. A lot of my kale is going to be 3 and 4 years old now. So I'm leaving it. And then I've got some more melons growing in here. And look at that. I've got a squash that came up here. It's a hybrid. It's coming up in one of my compost little bins I do around here. I've showed you. You've seen that. See, I bring my kitchen scraps out. This has been sitting out for a day now, so it's almost turning black. And then I can just dump that either in one of the big bins or dump it in one of the smaller ones around here and then start planting. The plants love it. There's a tomato plant, more strawberry towers here. Here's my purple broccoli. I have yet to see a purple broccoli, so I know the plant's getting bigger and bigger. So probably when the weather cools down, then I'll start getting purple broccoli. I see now I've got orange mint all over the ground, and then I've got more orange mint here, and then of course this is curly kale. Here the birds haven't really bothered with it because it's out in the open, and you know, they're afraid of predators. We've got hawks around, so they like to hide and go further down. But look what they have done. They have decimated my kale. But see the new growth? Look how beautiful the new growth is. And then if you've got a problem with birds, you can get tulle at one of the fabric stores. Just lay it on top and make sure it's a little bit stiff, and they won't bother with it. The birds won't bother with it, and usually your mice, your rats, your squirrels won't bother with it because they're afraid they're going to get stuck to it. They don't like the feel of it. Lemon verbena, this one was doing fine, so I've left that one. But the one in the corner, the rabbits found, and I didn't want them to chew the base of it. So I put one of those wire trash cans on, and look, it grew through the top. And I think I'll leave it. So I can always cut the top or cut it down, use the lemon verbena and let it bush out. Not sure, but I'm going to leave it. And there's my Popolo. Finally got that coming up. See? Sprinkled some seeds. I kept it covered with this trash can because a lot of things eat the baby Popolo, and that's our problem. I'll plant it, but something eats it. So I covered it. Now it's got a good start. There's a zucchini. Also, I did a video on this one. I composted right in that pot from the kitchen scraps. I just dumped a bunch of kitchen scraps in there and put a seed in there from a squash, and look at that. It just loves growing straight in the kitchen scraps. While it's breaking down, it's growing. And of course my dinosaur kale, which is doing really good. Look at the trunk on that. And then I just noticed that I had a cucumber that I missed. That is too big. Should not leave it that big. So that is coming in tonight. And I'll probably be making a cucumber salad with that tomorrow or today. And I'm going to let the cucumber plant grow up this thing I bought at the thrift store. I know Gary said you needed that. I said I'll have a use for it. Sat here for a couple years, but I found a use for it. And I'm going to train my cucumber plant to grow through the center and go up. He put the wood here for the ube that he had growing in this compost bin. It came up from the skin last year. So he moved the ube, and now I'm just going to let the cucumber grow in there. Bunch of kitchen scraps in that thing. Very little native soil and dirt in there, or I should say soil. But things grow great in there. So I've got squash growing in there, and then I've got lettuce that is going to get ready to go to seed because it's been so hot. More dinosaur kale. I take the pieces that fall off. I just stick it in there, or root. They'll take off in the winter when the weather cools. Oh, I see the birds have been munching on this dinosaur kale there too. More walking onions. Here I've got my tomatillos. They came up from seed on their own. I had some laying in there, so they started growing. More lettuce that went to seed. And then of course more lemon verbena. Got my mushroom plant down there. I've got peppers growing down there. Here's another browning broccoli. And there's more kale in there. And let's try to get to the front. These are the strawberry spinach down there. I've got two of them, one on each side. My green sorrel. I like sorrel. I like adding that in. Okay, let's go to the front. Here I've got my ginger table, and with my turmeric growing. And look, I covered it to protect it. Look at that. That is dill. I want to make sure nothing eats it. I want some more dill. And then I've got my stevia, which is growing really good, and more tomatoes, more mint. This is peppermint in the front here, and this is the black tomatoes, and then of course red ones too. I got to clean that up from the heat. And then my swimming pools that I've got there. Changing the front yard, so that should look different. Hopefully on the next one I'm going to start setting different things up in the front to start growing things. And I've been filling up the bricks too with native soil. And then I'll put some compost in there. I want to get the bricks filled up and get onions growing all through here. Walking onions. And that's pretty much it. This came up from seed. The cactus. And that is a Popolo that's coming up in there. So with that, I think that's it. Nothing else is going on. And things are still growing really good in our heat. Like I said, this I'm getting ready. I've been throwing tubs in there and scraps. Kitchen scraps. So I will get this going with more zucchini, because I use zucchini for all kinds of things. You can use any squash pretty much. I like zucchini. I like the way it grows. Stores well if you pick it at the right time. I can have it all winter. Hopefully I can grow it all winter, but we'll see. Right now I don't want to think about winter. We're still in summer. But I've got tubs in the pools. That's how I set it up this year. Differently than last year. Last year I was growing straight in the 3 swimming pools that are here. This time I put tubs in the center. See the containers? I've been composting in place, and it feeds the pool. And of course, oh my goodness, is that powdery mildew on my squash? Of course it is. And who caused that? Me. Because when I water at night, if I'm not careful, I splash the leaves. We've been really humid, so some of the leaves will get some powdery mildew. No big deal, doesn't affect the plants here. We're going to be dry next week anyways. I can just trim those off if they don't look good. But I've got, let's see, walking onions in there. I've got garlic chives, different squash growing in there. So that's it. So that's my garden tour for August 1st. It's been hot, but all in all, things are doing good here. And I'm quite happy with everything. We still have enough food. That's the main thing. As the weather cools, we'll be able to plant different things too and add different things. And hopefully I can get more lettuce going and the lettuce won't bolt. So with that, have a great day. I'm rushing through because it's been so hot and I just want to get in. I'm rushing through because it's been so hot. I want to get this finished and tend to my garden as well. So have a great day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Let's take a peek over here. Bye-bye, everybody. Please like and subscribe. I always say that because that's what they tell me to say. Have a great day. Bye-bye.